Thanks so much for joining. My name is Debbie Arbini. If you can't hear me in the back, just let me know. I will speak louder. So I sit in the Teams product group. My whole job is adoption and change management, which I've been doing for about 17 years at Microsoft for all of the different products. So I'm here to talk to you in 20 minutes or less about how to drive change management. So the question I get all the time, every single day when I talk to a customer is, what is that magic bullet? Give me the one little thing I can do to get everyone to change their mind and everyone to switch over as quickly as possible. And the reality is there is no magic bullet, right? It's not going to happen overnight. We are people, right? We're human beings, not computers, so we can't automatically switch and change over. We are emotional thinkers, right? We make decisions based on how it makes us feel, what we think is relevant to us, where we find value in things. That's where we're going to decide to make a change. And for anyone who has toddlers or has had a toddler or has been around a toddler, you know the first two words you learn are no and why, right? Nope, I don't want to do that. Why should I, right? And that carries throughout your life. So we are ingrained as human beings to say no to change, and we're ingrained to ask why. And in the end, we want to feel that change is our choice. So it's really important to take the right steps to get people to want to change and get people to want to make that shift. And the minute you do that, the minute that shift clicks in their brain, you have them on your side. So what can you do? And I'm going to cover this really fast. This presentation is downloaded, or you can download it and have it afterwards. But I'm going to talk about things that you can do before you roll out Teams or Teams to Skype or Skype to Teams. Don't go the reverse. Whoops, little slip of the tongue. You know, honestly, I've been doing this for so many different products. You can really apply this to any change management initiative you have going on. I'll talk about things before, during, and after you roll out. So the first thing you can do to influence people to change is understand who your users are, right? I've heard so many IT pros say, well, we're just going to do an email with a link to training, the deployed and they will come, the one size fits all. And I knew that one of the customers I recently worked with, he had identical twins. And I said, well, you know what? It must be really easy for you because you have identical twins. So they do everything the same, right? It's just easy. You do the same thing twice. And he was like, oh, God, no. He's like, they are as different as night and day. And I said, wait, you're meaning to tell me that people who share the exact same DNA are different habits, different styles, different everything, and yet you want people in your 10,000 person organization to all change the same way, right? So I said, people are very different. It's really important to understand what's going to drive your end users. And typically what I recommend is understanding your personas and use cases at a high level, and then picking the 3 or 4 pockets that you think have the biggest value with teams. It's also important to understand who your laggards are versus early adopters. Early adopters can become champions. Your laggards are the ones you really have to sell to move over. So take some time. Most organizations already have done a persona analysis. So take some time to understand who your users are. It's going to help go that much further. The other thing, when you're communicating and talking about value messaging to your user, never ever tell an end user, well, we're switching to this product because it's going to save us money. Because unless they're going to see a big raise in their paycheck, they don't care. Never tell them, oh, we're going to streamline to get rid of all these other products, because they see it as you're taking products away that help me do my job. And never say, we're doing this to improve your productivity, because then they say, you mean I'm not working enough, right? So make sure that might be business objectives for your executives, but make sure you're tailoring that vision and value messaging for what's in it for the end user. Like, hey, we know it's so frustrating that you're going to 10 different places to look for documents, or we know how much time you spend on this. Make it valuable for what they want to do. This is really important. Assess how much change is going on. I worked with a customer who thought it would be a great idea to combine a lot of change initiatives together. And in one weekend, this is a true story, one weekend, they not only were shifting technologies, they were moving physical offices. So people went home on a Friday night, packed up their desk. Monday morning, they show up in a new office, so that's new. They moved to Windows 10. They moved to Office 365. They got rid of their phone system and moved to headsets, so everyone came in and had a headset plugged into their computer. And this was on Skype, and not many people had even used Skype before. So Now they're trying to make phone calls not even knowing how to log into Skype for Business. So it was change after change after change, and let's just say it didn't go well. I'll put it nicely. So think about how much other change is happening at the same time and try to span it out, or where you can't, what I like to do is create an initiative that's an umbrella. So I had a customer, their initiative was called Innovate 2020. And their whole thing is to go digital transformation, intelligent communications vision, they're all in, and they're gonna be doing changes over the next couple of years, but their big umbrella vision is Innovate 2020. So people see it as these little changes, they're just part of this bigger initiative. And it doesn't land on the end user as all these little changes. So just something to consider. The other thing is, I've had customers say, well, we're gonna wait until we're really ready to deploy this and until it's on everyone's desktops before we communicate. People are gonna hear that change is happening. Communicate early, otherwise they will start forming their own opinions and rumors about why it's changing and what's going on and the impact to them. You know, it's kind of like when people hear, oh, layoffs are coming, wait, is that me? And they start forming all these opinions about what's happening. So communicate early, before you're even thinking about change. So what about during your rollout? I call this a trifecta. It's not just an email with a link to training. Everyone these days, I've seen, it kind of gives me a panic attack, but I've seen folks that have 30,000 unread messages in their inbox. Email is ubiquitous, it's great, but it's also overwhelming, and if that's all you do, you're gonna lose people and people won't know what's going on. So the trifecta is awareness, training, and support. Have multiple ways to communicate, multiple ways to train. So maybe videos, user guides, instructor-led training, whatever that is for your organization, and then really make sure your support desk is there to help users answer calls or take calls from users and help them along the way. Next, peer champions. Our marketing department, several years ago, the product was Skype, but Skype and Teams, I'm gonna use them ubiquitously here. And they asked customers, who's the biggest influencer in your organization to get users to change? For every other product, Outlook, Office, you name it, it was IT Pro and Executive Sponsor. For Skype, it was IT Pro and Peer Champions. Because it's the only product where you're always working with someone else, right? You're never working in Skype in a silo or Teams in a silo. You're always gonna be talking to someone else, sharing documents with someone else. So Peer Champions are a great way to help you take that trifecta the next level forward. So find those champions, those are your early adopters. If you're running a pilot, get some of those pilot users to switch over and be champions. At Microsoft, we have our own Teams champions. I'm a Teams champion, so I help go around the company and sell people on what Teams is. And next, make it manageable. Don't give them everything in the kitchen sink on day one. Like, don't say, here's chat, and here's calling, and here's meetings, and here's Teams and Collab. If you're going from Skype to Teams, focus on what they do in Skype. Do some analysis of how people are using Skype today, and then say, okay, here are the 3 or 4 things we're gonna get you started with. And really make it manageable so that it's not overwhelming change at once. Another customer example, and this, I will be the first to admit that I was completely 100% wrong, and I told this customer, your thing is never gonna work, and it turned out to be the fastest growing adoption I've ever seen in a company. This is going back to Link days, but they came up with an umbrella event called Link Nation. And they said, join Link Nation, everyone's doing it, it's the greatest thing, and you're gonna get a lot of value out of this. And just like the show Survivor, every week they gave them a new challenge. Week 1's challenge, send 3 IMs to your colleague. That was it. You wanna go grab coffee? Instead of walking down the hall, just send an IM. And I'm like, really, that's all you're gonna do? And everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's so easy. That wasn't hard at all. Next week, for your next team meeting, hold it in Link. That was it, one thing. And people were thinking, oh my gosh, this product is so easy, that their adoption was the highest adoption I've ever seen in the 17 years I worked with a customer. So again, make it manageable. Don't introduce way too much change at the same time. And then after, old habits die hard, right? Otherwise, New Year's resolutions, we'd all be like 20 pounds lighter and be working out every day, right? So it's always easy for people to try something once, and you kind of see that roller coaster effect, like, hey, great, look, usage is up. Oh, wait, no, it's not. It's coming back down. So make sure you're following up with users. Make sure you're supporting them. Have an open feedback loop. Check in with them. Hey, we launched this 2 weeks ago. How's it going? What do you think? Make sure you're checking usage to see that people are continuing to use it and continuing to grow in the direction that you want. And lead by example. That's really critical. If you're in IT, you're a departmental manager, they're going to follow your lead because it's so easy to revert back to what they knew before. And unlike other products like Outlook, where someone's probably not going to go find another third-party email solution, when you're looking at Skype or looking at Teams, there's dozens, if not hundreds, of other products out there that they can go do. And everyone knows the term shadow IT. The last time I checked, it's up to 80% of users say, I just go use what works for me. So it's really important to be checking in with your users and making sure that they're following the lead that you want them to follow. And then once you get them started on the core features and functions, now it's time to shine the spotlight on those new things. Like for me, memes and Giphies. I've had entire conversations with colleagues and teams just using memes and Giphies because it makes it fun, right? Make it fun, make it interactive. At mentions, now's the time to bring in threaded conversations, all of those things that take it to that next level forward. And then finally, unlike products in the past where you could deploy something and then come back 3 or 5 years later, Teams M365, it continues to evolve. And as you're noticing with Teams, I think we've launched, well over 100 features in the last year. It's going to continue to evolve at an exponential rate. So make sure you're planning take a look at the O365 roadmap. Know what features are coming. Know what you want to deploy if you need to do testing in advance. So it's both about technical and user readiness so that when those features launch, you're ready for them. Do you need training? Does your help desk need to know that, hey, this recording is landing, or hey, we're launching calling and here's what that means? So really make sure that you're continuing to evolve and expand. And I will tell you that once users get that momentum and they're bought in, they will come to you and say, hey, I heard recordings coming. When can I get access to that? And you're not going to have to push anymore. They're going to come to you asking for that information. 8 minutes. All right. So that was really fast. We do have a lot of other go deeper sessions, much more than a 20-minute session. There's one actually later today on driving Teams adoption. So if you want to go a lot deeper on different bells and whistles, Caruana, I believe, on my team is doing that one. If you want to learn more about enlisting champions and having a champions program, there's a deep dive session on that on Wednesday. And then I am hosting a session on Thursday. That one's a 75-minute, so we'll go a lot deeper than we did today. We actually have a customer coming in as well to talk about how they drove change management on their journey from Skype to Teams. So that one is specific on Skype to Teams, on getting user acceptance and user readiness to come over. So with that, we have 7 minutes left if there are questions. Say that again? The question, if I'm hearing that correctly, is when are we cutting off Skype? Is that the question? Everyone's like, what? I think I heard him right. There is no end of life date that we have committed to for Skype for Business. We need to make sure that Teams is there and ready for customers before they're even going to think about it. So it's years. We're deploying Skype Server 2019. So it's many years away. Yes, that's the long-term vision, but there's no end of life date for Skype. Yep. That's what? 10 years. Yeah, well, I came, if anyone remembers back from live meeting days, I don't know if anyone remembers the product live, I came over to Microsoft with an acquisition that then became live meeting. And that was live meeting 2007, and they just retired it in 2017. So that was 10 years later. Yeah. So you never know. Yes?
You talked about rolling out Teams functionality gradually.
Yeah.
First show them how to use Teams for things they use Skype. Can you elaborate more on how you would introduce additional functionality?
Yeah. So the question was, I talked about how to drive from Skype to Teams and launching the Skype functionality, and then how do you go about introducing like Teams and channels and all of that other stuff. Interestingly enough, we did a series of trainings for a customer who was going Skype to Teams, and we focused on just chat, meetings, and calling. And everyone's like, well, what about this other stuff? Because you can't disable Teams and channels, right? It's going to be there, and people will see it. And all of the feedback from that training was, yeah, this is great, but when can I learn more about Teams and channels? So we kind of started going in the direction of listening to our end users, right? It goes back to the feedback of hearing that. But what we normally do, at least the way I position it, is when I'm talking about chat and meetings, especially in going from Skype to Teams, or when you're going from Skype to Teams, I start giving scenarios of how do you really use chat? Like, is it really a one-off, or is it part of a bigger picture? Is it part of a bigger project? Like, do you feel yourself chatting in your meetings? Are they really one-off meetings, or are they part of a bigger initiative? And 90% of the time, they're part of something bigger and more ongoing. And then I say, well, great. What if you can manage all of that, right? So you didn't have chat over here, and then your meetings, you know, are captured in Outlook and somewhere else, and then your documents are in SharePoint. And what if you can have one place to capture all of that? And you have a new project lead coming on, or a new project member coming on, and you could get them up to speed really quickly. And they're like, oh, how do I do that? Right? And so it kind of gradually leads in. So I try to take it out of just the chat and just the meeting and kind of talk about like a bigger scenario that it would make. Okay, 3 minutes. Yeah.
When you cut people over to Teams, are you running them in parallel with Skype for some period of time, or are you trying to just cut them off once they become?
Great question. When we cut people, the question was when we cut people off from Skype to Teams, cut them over. Are we doing it like all at once, right? Gradually, is that kind of your question? Or?
Do you leave both clients on the desktop for some period of time?
Yeah. Got it. So do we leave both clients on the desktop, or do we cut them over? So it really depends, honestly, on the organization. At Microsoft, we have both. I still work in both products. I would say I'm 90% in Teams. It really depends, I would say, on your organizational culture. I have some customers that say it's too confusing to have people to have two different clients, right? So I think it's a cultural thing. I think it depends on how fast companies want to move. I think it depends on whether all of the features that you need are in Teams today. But what we typically find, and there's a session that's not up here, but there is a session on Wednesday that's in alignment with the Delight Your End Users. That's the end user one. There's a similar one called Planning Your Migration, which is it's the technical side, and it talks about the coexistence modes. Right now there's a few that are out there. There's more that are launching and coming, and they're going to talk about that. So you can have right now what internally we call it islands mode, meaning Skype's over here and Teams over here. They don't really talk to one another. You can have Teams only, so you're moving users just to Teams. There's going to be some middle iterations there as well, so you can have certain apps in Teams and certain apps in Skype so that they don't overlap so much. So I honestly think it's really just a cultural, there's no one right answer. It's kind of what works for your organization. Most companies today, because it's the mode that's available, is islands mode. They're running both. And then it's a matter of communicating to your users and I think honestly the more, I've seen users move over to Teams simply because of memes and Giphies. As did I. It's something fun, right? But it's those little things. Yeah, so I would say more cultural and timing of what the organization wants. We are also working on, to further your question, if anyone's familiar with the tool My Advisor, which kind of helps from a technical deployment standpoint, we're adding some questions in there that will help you inform which path you should take and which modes you should enable. So it's like, yeah, how many clients, how do your users react, and all this stuff, and that will say, hey, based on how you answered this, we think these modes are the right path for your organization. So that's coming out probably in the coming weeks. I would say sometime in October you should see that as well. All right. Anything else? Oh, yeah. Some more from like a legal and compliance. That's a little bit out of my realm, I will be honest. So yeah, so from that, there actually is a legal and compliance and security session. I can look it up and get you that one, but that would be a good one to either attend or listen to, because they'll go deeper on how Teams and Skype.
Yeah, it's also so I can go with the process of discovering, choosing what Teams for what, and what kind of data is being stored
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean? It's from very
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had a better answer for you on that. Sorry. Yes. Oh, and there's more. Hi. Okay, so that was a good question. The question was, will all the features from Skype be moved into Teams? Right now, they're not all on the roadmap, and the reason being, it's meant to be an evolution of what Skype was, not exactly a duplication of what Skype was, right? So it's taking it to the next level. You know, the roadmap is still evolving, so I don't know exactly what features, you know, will end up making it down the road. What I will say is, and I know we've heard it from customers in the past, oh great, you tell us there's features coming, it goes into a black hole, we never hear from you, we give you your feedback, it goes nowhere. There is now a site, it's https://aka.ms/teamsuservoice. We have product owners that monitor that. Their job is to monitor that on a daily basis. And you will get updates on when features are landing or what the progression is and where we are in the discussions. For example, private channels, that's been a big request in Teams, right? You can go there and it's now making it to the roadmap specifically because customers said we need that. The same thing of in Teams, how can I start a chat, or sorry, how can I start a share without jumping to a call? Because you can do that in Skype, you cannot do that in Teams today. That is also now in testing because of what came out of Teams user voice. So definitely we are paying attention to that on a daily basis. So if there are features in Skype that you're saying, hey, you know, that's a critical requirement, go to Teams user voice, aka.ms/teamsuservoice. Okay, I think they're kicking me out. But thank you so much for coming. Hopefully this was valuable. There's other sessions. I can hang around if anyone has questions afterwards. Otherwise, thanks so much.